Watkins Glen International has been hosting elite road racing since the venue first opened its doors in 1956, carrying on a tradition of speed in upstate New York that started on the region's public roads in the years after the Second World War. After 1 year away, this weekend marks the return of the Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWSE, to one of the country's most revered circuits. Hello everyone, and welcome to round 9 of the season. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. We'll hear from Amanda Busick in the pit lane shortly, getting ready to go for the first of 2 races this weekend for the GT World Challenge America Championship. Calvin, and Road America last time out, Watkins Glen this time. It's just a succession of wonderful racetracks. It's a great calendar that we have this year.
It really is. Just iconic venues, and it's wonderful to be back, as you mentioned, missing last year, so it's good to be back here on site. And what an incredible racetrack this is. So fast, so smooth, but the amount of grip that the track provides these drivers here this afternoon is simply immense. The GT3 cars, with the downforce that they create, just fly through some of these corners. And bit of a jumbled up grid. Interesting qualifying session this morning. It was wet when we arrived. We didn't anticipate that. I don't think the teams did either. So we had a red flag and then like a last lap shootout, literally, for the pole position and the grid positions further down from there. So should be some fireworks here this afternoon.
Well, we could tell you about this track, or we could let Jan Halen show you. I think we'll opt for the latter. This is the Porsche Track Preview.
Hi, my name is Jan Halen. Welcome to the Porsche Track Preview here at Watkins Glen. Coming onto the front straightaway, crossing start-finish, getting ready to brake downhill into turn 1, deep on the brakes, hitting that apex, and then watch for track limits here on the exit of turn 1. Getting ready to turn into the famous S's here at Watkins Glen. A really fun part of the track in this Porsche GT3R. Going up the hill, no lift here, onto the back straightaway, and then getting ready to brake into the bus stop. Deep on the brakes here, close to the 150 signboard, and then hard over the curbs here into the bus stop, and then back to power into the carousel. Carousel, one of the faster corners on the track. Hard in, small tap on the brake, and then quickly back to power. So much downforce here from the car, really fun. Deep on the brakes here into turn 6, lots of camber here from the track. Back to power, using up all that exit, and then same for turn 7. Lots of camber here from the track, so you can really drive it in deep, and then accelerating up the hill, ready to get onto this little backstretch into turn 8. Turn 8, one of the best places to overtake if you're in a hot battle. Braking down the hill again, apexing the corner, and then watch for track limits here on the exit. And then braking up the hill for turn 9. Turn 9 being the slowest corner on the track. And you'll see not much room for error here on the exit. Right next to that wall. And then into turn 10, which is the fastest corner on the track. Over 100 miles an hour, using all that exit curb. Pushing the car back over to the left. Ready for turn 11, last corner. Small tap on the brake, and then exiting right next to that wall onto the front straightaway. And that was a lap at Watkins Glen.
11 turns, 3.37 miles, and it is all fantastic. That is Watkins Glen International. Down amongst the GT3 cars about ready to do battle is Amanda Busick. What do you have for us in the pits, Amanda?
Well, the countdown is on for race number 9 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. And I can tell you, based on her social media, Erin Bogle is ready to take P1 for the Pro-Am class. She's going to look to better. You guys will remember she won her first race earlier this year. As we move down pit lane here, behind me, I have Fred Pordad, who's going to start in his class. He is the points leader coming into this race here in Watkins Glen. It's kind of incredible considering they won the AM class won the AM class last season, but this duo is really dynamic this season between Jan Halen and Fred Pordad. But back in 1 and 2 on the grid are the Lamborghinis of K-Pax. I think I was told by the team representative it's been 7 of 9 poles that they have taken on this year. And the driver that will take over for Corey Lewis in the green Lamborghini is none other than Gio Venturini. And Gio, you got to see the track earlier this morning. You're going to take over from Corey. What do you anticipate during race day?
Well, honestly, yesterday we were a little bit on trouble, but at the end, Cody did amazing quality today, this morning, Q1, so we start in first row, and obviously the goal is, if you start in the first row, the goal is to win the race. But we have also our teammates on the side, so will be tough for him in corner one. But we'll see what happened during the race, and I hope that we can bring the car on the podium.
You guys had the incident earlier this season in VIR. Do you feel like you're still chasing any challenges with this car?
No, honestly, was not the first. Sorry, and will be not, I guess, the last. So it's the part of the motorsport life, you know. So happen, but you have to remove on your mind and pass away.
The green Lambo looking to win here today in Watkins Glen.
It would be the second win on the season if Giovanni Venturini and Corey Lewis could get that done, but they've got to go through the sister car, which starts on pole. Jordan Pepper had a huge lap in qualifying, put him P1 by over half a second over the sister car. Then they'll have a couple other pro-class cars breathing down their neck, making up the second row of the grid, Calvin. But it has been an interesting season for K-Pax in their return to GT World Challenge America after focusing their efforts on GT World Challenge Europe last year, making the switch from Lamborghini to Lamborghini from Bentley. It's been a good year. They've won a lot of races, but the split between the two cars has been a curious story for us to follow, really starting with the round in VIR.
Yeah, Amanda alluded to that with Gio, and I think since that weekend they've struggled to get the car in the sweet spot, as we call it, in terms of the handling, and really resurfaced itself here this weekend. They tested a couple of weeks ago after Road America, and there's just something amiss with this car. They actually put Jordan Pepper behind the wheel of the 6 machine, get his evaluation. He said, yes, there's something wrong with the steering. It's kind of vague, and you need to really use a lot more steering input to get the car turned into the corner. And then you're behind all the way through the corner, because with a massive amount of steering input as you get to the exit, you're then going to kick the rear end around as well. So Corey did a nice job this morning, but I don't think we really saw the true potential with Jordan Pepper's pace because of the wet track. We got the red flag. There was 3 minutes to go. Everyone went out and got a last lap flyer, and Jordan encountered some traffic there. So don't be surprised if Jordan gets the jump here to maybe eke away from the rest of the field.
Well, that red flag in qualifying was the crucial moment in that 15-minute session. The car is starting to head out to take the first of 2 formation laps, because the grid we thought might be set. We weren't sure if we would be able to resume action, but instead that 1-lap shootout, and it really shuffled the grid, especially in Pro-Am, and Aaron Vogel was the one that took the most advantage of that, jumping from further back at the Pro-Am field to the class pole.
Yes, and it was interesting to see how that evolved, because Jordan Pepper was trying to gap himself to get, you know, some space in traffic. He passed Aaron with a couple of corners to go. He slowed down, and Aaron just blew by him and got on it, and effectively got the Pro-Am pole. Admittedly, Michael DeMeo had a good lap on the board, but it's really tight there. You've got 6 cars separated from row 3 back to row 5 by just 0.3 of a second. So that was in the damp conditions. I think it'll be slightly different this afternoon, but we saw the same thing in qualifying too. So it's a very tight field, but certainly for K-Pax, they would love to continue this role that they're on. But look for that Turner Motorsport BMW. They've got great straight line speed. Michael Dunn is not afraid to get his elbows out on these opening laps as we've seen so far this year. So I think Venturini's going to have to defend going up to the inner loop on the opening lap.
And this Turner team has had great success on this circuit, already has 2 races, one of them a long distance race in a different GT3 series that they had some good runs in. So they've got the experience with this BMW. The co-driver to Michael Dunn and Robbie Foley was a part of those lineups there, and that carries over perhaps to today, where they'll start on the inside of the second row. This car right here, the Acura NSX GT3 Evo, a pair of them, Racer's Edge car to the left of the screen, Compass Racing to the right. As has been the case, it's a revolving door alongside Taylor Hagler in that Racer's Edge car. Jacob Abel slotting in, but this is a team with a lot of momentum, because the last time out, Taylor Hagler and Dakota Dickerson scored a big win in that Pro-Am class, and she's now second in points.
Yeah, and she's having a tremendous season. We talk about Aaron Vogel claiming that class pole, but certainly Taylor has had a great year, a number of podium finishes, and rewarded with that brilliant victory at Road America. And Abel is doing a nice job as well. I think he's getting more and more familiar with GT3 machinery. He's coming off a GT3 weekend just last week over on the West Coast, so that will help him. He's doing his single-seater Road to Indy program as well. I mean, you jump between very different race cars. It's how to get back in the groove. I think this weekend will be a bit more seamless for him in terms of being up to speed quickly.
Told me it was the first time he has ever driven a GT3 car in consecutive weekends, and although his race last weekend didn't last very long, there was still the time in the car and the build up to it, and he felt like that has carried over here to this weekend, so we'll keep an eye on that car. One other storyline is the return once again of a second car in the AM class. Much of this year it's been AF Corsa running unopposed, but starting at Elkhart Lake the last time out, we saw TR3 step up and run an AM car of their own, and that's added an extra element to it. But those two cars are split by a considerable distance in qualifying. JC Sada had a remarkable qualifying effort to start 8th overall in the AF Corsa Ferrari. The other car in the class is considerably further back, 13th overall for TR3 Racing, with Bill Sweedler qualifying that machine. So a big gap between those two, but I have a feeling they're going to find one another before this thing is all said and done.
Yeah, and the TR3 team on the back foot a little bit. Is what we call a bronze session for just bronze-rated drivers early yesterday morning, and Bill Sweedler got hit down into this corner that the field is now going into turn 1. In this downhill run, he was a much faster car, went to the inside, and someone turned in on him. Big damage to the right rear corner. Added to that, he all down the racetrack, other cars were involved, and then that got into the engine in terms of they were worried about that, so they had to do an engine change, big suspension fix on the left rear corner. So they've been on the back foot, you know, losing precious track time yesterday, I think really related to their qualifying position this morning.
The car at the back of this shot, that was the red Lamborghini from Reardon Racing, and it's good to see that car out on track. They won't like their starting position, 15th out of 15 cars, but Jeff Burton had the incident in qualifying. Just a little spin, but he did make slight contact with the wall, and it led to a power steering issue that basically put it into qualifying, both in Q1 and Q2. But the Reardon team evidently has gone to work. They've got that car repaired, and they're ready to take the start at the back. And Jeff Burton is one. He's running both this and GT America powered by AWS. A lot of track time on a given weekend, and we've seen him get more and more comfortable with GT3 cars as the season has progressed.
Yeah, he's a great guy in our paddock in terms of he brings a lot to the table in terms of his on track. He's always got a smile on his face. He's very enthusiastic, and he's another one of these drivers from the AM category who's not intimidated in any way. He's willing to go racing, he's willing to rub shoulders with anyone on the racetrack, so expect him to try and make some moves here early in the go. And also want to give a shout out to car 88, the SRO Motorsport Lamborghini Hurricane. Jason Howard, 6 on the grid. That's a really nice run for him this morning as well, that he'll share that car with Madison Snow, who's had success here at the Glen in the past as well.
Yeah, beat me to the punch. I was going to give them a shout out as well. That team, it's that brightly colored Lamborghini in the middle of the shot there with the bullicorn, as they call it. It's a bull with a unicorn horn, I guess, is how you describe it. That's the mascot of the team, and they're a fun-loving group out of Utah. It's been great to see them, but they took a hit in Road America, quite literally, in the GT America race. Most of the season, they've had 2 chassis that they've used between those 2 series, but that car could not be repaired. So it's now this lone chassis that's going to be pressed into service for 4 races here this weekend, and they expect it Sebring as well before that second car can come back for the finale at Indianapolis. But a great qualifying effort for them, looking to improve upon that within the race itself. And Jason coming a long way in his first season of GT3 racing.
Well, you wonder how much chat has been between these teammates over lunch in terms of how to really control the start here. K-Pax Racing sweeping the front row. Jordan Pepper, the South African, on the pole, and the American Corey Lewis to his flank in the bright green car.
Prior to testing at this track last week, Corey Lewis was the only member of that team with previous laps here at Watkins Glen, but that test proved valuable. The team has been up to speed, as evidenced by the 1-2 start that we're about to see. Waiting for the green flag from Tom Hansing here at Watkins Glen. It flies. Big jump for Jordan Pepper, the pole sitter. The race is on for third behind. Here comes Dynan in that BMW, as we've seen all year long, but around the outside. Russell Ward able to grab that spot away in the Windward Racing Mercedes.
That could be great news for the 2 Lamborghinis, so they don't have that BMW hounding them, but certainly Russell Ward has had a great start here and is putting the pressure on Venturini as they head up through the S's.
side by side, further back in the pack through the S's. Tough place to do that, but so far clean and green as the battle is on once again for third. Here comes Dynan around the outside, showing off the strength of that BMW, sweeping around and taking the third spot right back.
Really nicely done there. It's not easy to get back online and kind of pinch the Mercedes there right at apex to the inner loop, but that's what I was talking about by Ward getting in front of him. That took the pressure off Venturini, so I think otherwise it could have been a cut and paste move from that Turner Motorsports number 96 on the Lamborghini for second position. Big twitch there by Venturini trying to get the tires up to temp.
Oh, that opens the door for Dynan. The Penn Quaker attends the University of Pennsylvania, an engineering student, putting that to use here on the outside, trying to snag that spot away in the toe of the boot. First time around at Watkins Glen.
Oh, this is awesome racing here. We talk about Michael Dynan and the confidence that he's showing now, getting into the groove with this GT3 machine, coming off 2 GT4 championships in 2020.
Hard on the brakes for the heel of the boot, and he's got that second spot wrestled away from Corey Lewis. A couple of young Americans going at it, hammer and tong, exiting turn 9.
I'll get the driver straight sooner or later. Yeah, Corey Lewis aboard that bright green Lamborghini, but certainly would indicate that they're struggling a little bit still with the setup on that race car. He's dropped positions early.
A good clean start from Aaron Vogel. He's first in Pro-Am, 5th overall, and Jason Harward still running in the 6th overall position. But he's got Michael DeMeo, who's charged from way back on the grid, up 3 spots on that first lap. That's the Compass Racing black and orange Acura coming through the back of this picture here in just a moment. Great start for him. He thought he had the pole before the red flag came out, and then ultimately the green came out, and there was that last lap shootout in qualifying.
Yeah, I'm sure he was super frustrated by that, to be sitting on pit lane with about 3 minutes to go in the session, having the pole in class, and then suddenly find himself deep in the pack. He had a great opening lap here, moving up into a podium spot early.
Another good start further back in the field. Frank Gannett in that Aston Martin jumped up 2 positions. He now runs 12th after starting 14th. Here is Taylor Hagler behind the wheel of the Racer's Edge number 93 Acura NSX GT3 Evo, giving chase to the AM class leader. I believe that's JC Sada who had the qualifying duties. And we have a spin. That's David Askew around.
Yeah, you could hear it from the on-course cameras there. Someone was going for a loop there. I think that's coming out of the inner loop there.
David had qualified 11th, dropped a couple of spots on that first lap, so maybe the handling not quite to his liking here in the early stages. Behind Hagler is Martin Fuentes. That's TR3 Racing, operating the white Lamborghini at the back of that picture. Martin made his season debut last weekend with the team alongside Giacomo Altoe. I think that 2 weekends ago, the last time out at Road America.
Yeah, shame for David Askew there. They were hoping for better things here this weekend. They had real dire handling issues at Road America. Came for a test here just a few days later and figured something out, but not the start they were looking for.
I might have seen a little fluid out of the back of the Racer's Edge car, maybe from the fuel overflow. It seems to me we've seen that before at points in the season, so we'll keep an eye on it. But as I recall, that's maybe not the first time as Harward goes on the attack, or actually that's on the defensive. We've got DeMeo making up yet another spot. That moves him to 6th overall and 2nd in Pro-Am.
Yeah, big run here, so looking for a strong afternoon. The Acura NSX does run well here at Watkins Glen International, and Michael DeMeo said he was loving life. Spoke to him yesterday. I said, what are you up to outside of this? He said, I have got so much enthusiasm since getting the opportunity here with the Compass Racing team. He said, I'm spending all of my time in the gym, really focused on racing once again. He's in the real estate game as well, just to make ends meet, but a very talented young driver who kind of slipped through the racing net here for a few years, but got this second wind in terms of his career, and he's trying to make the most out of it.
29-year-old from Toronto, Canada on the charge, and he's reeled in Aaron Vogel. This is for the class lead, but we just went full course yellow. So that breaks off this fight, at least for the moment. And problems here for the 10 car. This is the M-class car from TR3. Bill Sweedler behind the wheel, but something has gone wrong. He's pulled that car into an access road, but
I thought the rear wing was...
I thought so too.
Take another look here. Oh yeah, there's the rear wing. So
that's up the S's, I believe. Yeah, high-speed section of the track, climbing that hill.
Should be flat out, so I'm not sure if it cut a tire or something prior to that moment, but with the amount of downforce that you have in these cars, certainly they're getting up to speed very quickly, but they just generate a ton of downforce with the high grip nature of this race circuit. Should be flat out through there.
And that wipes out a nearly 3-second lead that Jordan Pepper had built over Michael Dinan, and we saw how strong that BMW was on the initial start, and now Pepper is going to have to withstand that kind of a challenge here once again when we go back to green flag racing.
Let's take another look at it here. So watch the Winward Racing gray Mercedes to the outside. That kind of breaks Dinan away from the two Lamborghinis, but then as we come up through the S's, this is where that BMW really comes on strong. He's got a big hole in the air being punched by both Corey Lewis and Russell Ward there, and he just goes to the outside, just enough to clear Ward and take the apex as they turn into the inner loop.
That was a great move around the outside, and Michael Dinan was not done. Corey Lewis just ahead. And Dinan was able to track him down and make the pass as well on the opening lap. Currently runs second, splitting the two K-Pax cars. It's Russell Ward and Winward back in fourth. Should note that it is Michael Grenier driving alongside Russell Ward this weekend, as was the case when they scored their lone win of the season back at VIR. The normal co-driver, Philip Ellis, driving for Winward in the DTM Championship, qualified in the top 10 along with Lucas Auer, the team's other driver there, racing at Assen in the Netherlands. But they've got a nice bullpen to go to if they need another driver to get plugged in, running in as many championships as they are. And as we saw in VIR, you throw Michael Grenier in and he was right up to speed immediately. They very well could have swept that weekend if not for a small miscue in the pit lane.
Yeah, very much so. So they're a team that's on form, and we know that K-Pax, they're really the benchmark. They've had so much success over the years here in SRO competition, and when they stack the deck with these Lamborghinis and the support they have there, plus the driver lineup, you thought, well, this could be easy meat for them. But the teams from Turner Motorsport, from Winward, have certainly made note with their victories this year that if they falter even a little bit, that they're going to pounce and be there for another win. And I think for Andrea Caldarelli, you know that the K-Pax team will be telling, excuse me, for Jordan Pepper, you know that the K-Pax team will be telling him, watch out for that BMW. He's seen it already this year. He knows it's got straightaway speed. He's got to be on the defensive as they go down that straightaway towards the inner loop on that opening lap on the restart.
It strikes me, as we're now approaching 8 minutes gone by in this race, that this safety car is exactly what DXDT Racing was hoping for as far as David Askew and Ryan Dial are concerned. He had the spin that put him quite a ways behind, but that deficit now gets erased. And if Askew can just hang with this train, maybe make up a couple of spots, Dial was feeling pretty confident when you spoke to him earlier this weekend that they've got a solid piece of equipment underneath.
Well, they're back to normal, let's put it that way. They were just so lost at Road America. They threw everything but the kitchen sink at it and just could not get the car comfortable. It was really just trying to hurt him in terms of some of the high-speed corners there. And they identified what the setup issue was when they got here for a test. But sometimes you're trying to catch back up again. You've gone down this road of trying to fix a problem without realizing there's a fundamental issue there. And but they qualified well. I mean, Ryan has been found, what was it, like half a 10 this morning. He'd have been right up on row 2 of the grid for tomorrow, but it's very competitive. But they're certainly back in the mix once again.
That's what they were hoping for. And by the way, if you're new to the series, as it looks like, as we say this, David Askew is heading to the pit lane. I was about to mention the mandatory pit stop window. It is a 90-minute race, full-service pit stop, but it has to be done within a 10-minute prescribed window, right around the halfway mark, for it to count. This would not count as far as the mandatory stop goes.
Well, you could use it almost like a little mini test session here. He had poor track position anyway. Come in here, maybe they'll do a quick tweak on the car. Looks like they're going to maybe change some tires here. I'm not sure if he flat spotted anything when he went for the loop there. Concerned about the left rear, so maybe they're seeing something in the telemetry that's indicating a slow leak or something.
Definitely a possibility, but there's not much harm in making this stop now under safety car conditions when they were already at the back of the train anyway, as far as the 14 cars still running are concerned. I think you're right, just changing that one tire, maybe there is an indication that something might have been amiss, a small puncture, slow leak, something like that.
Or even he just said, listen, I'm struggling for grip here, so if they think it's some kind of tire issue, they just give a bit more grip. The tire allocation information that you've given with, so it may be one that they're taking out of the bag for tomorrow, so you've got to be careful with those changes.
I did not see any lights illuminated on the safety car. That's a look at the tire. Anything jump out to you?
No, it looks all normal. Don't see any bad graining or anything or any cuts, but they're certainly inspecting something like they feel something is amiss. So I would imagine that they've got a sense of this reading that was low. That's why they elected to bring him in to be safe.
Now David's got to hustle to catch up with the back of this train because we should be going green, it appears, this time by. He's entering the S's now.
Could be good, though, because you're generating a bit more tire temp. And time you get there, you could be right in the sweet spot as everyone's going to struggle for grip for the first few corners.
And this is approaching the heel of the boot, so just a few more corners to negotiate. Here comes ASKU.
Should be perfect, I think.
Got an update from Kelly Brule, PR representative for DXDT. Flat spot was the issue for David ASKU. He would have felt that for sure, and this gives them a chance to deal with that problem without any real consequence. He should be caught back up. There he is, right at the end of this train. So
it's going to be nice.
Yeah, very clever strategy there from DXDT. That should keep them right in the mix as the safety car accelerates away. Let's keep an eye on that big, hulking BMW M6 GT3 of Michael Dinan. That is a rocket ship in a straight line, splitting those two Lamborghinis. He used that horsepower to his advantage on the initial start after dropping to 4th to drive back to 6th. Pepper, sensing this, as is his right, accelerates away at the apex of turn 11 and has built a bit of a gap, but is it big enough? Green flag flies over Watkins Glen.
That's exactly where the steward said the acceleration point is at the apex of turn 11. He's gone, but it's also taking the pressure off Dinan. He doesn't have to defend down into turn 1. If he can get a good run through here, but looks like Pepper's really executed that nicely. Got good exit speed out of turn 1, but here comes Pac-Man. Here comes that BMW.
It's starting to loom right there, just like you alluded to. Pac-Man reference here. It comes. BMW closing in on Lamborghini. Jordan Pepper going defensive into the run to the inner loop. Goes slightly back online to get the better entrance to the corner. That keeps Dinan at bay, at least for now. Michael Dinan, though, smelling blood. He knows this is his best chance.
Yeah, and I love it. I love the aggressive nature that Michael Dinan is displaying at this higher level of the sport that he's encountering this year.
Winningest driver in SRO America competition, 17 wins between Sprint and Sprint X racing last year. But that was in GT4 machinery. Big step for him this year, jumping into the GT3 ranks, and he has looked right at home from the word go. Right now, pressuring one of the fastest GT drivers on the planet, Jordan Pepper, as we drop back to the Pro-Am lead.
Here's Michael DeMeo there in the bright orange and gray Acura, trying to put the pressure on our pole setter, Aaron Vogel. DXDT, Mercedes AMG. She's displaying confidence as well. We're getting to that point in the season where everyone's kind of finding their feet right now, Ryan, and it's showcasing itself in some of these early laps.
DeMeo right there in the tire tracks, showing you can follow close in these GT3 cars. Backs up just a hair through turn 10. Swings back to the left in the run to turn 11 and back onto the front straightaway once again. But Compass Racing, one win to their credit. That was VIR Race 2 in Pro-Am. Looking strong once again at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, now we see Taylor Hagler here getting a run on Fred Pordad. Can't quite make it stick. Gives it up. She's very mature behind the wheel despite her experience in terms of making good decisions, good choices when she gets in close battles like this one.
Keep an eye on this fight, but as we do so, DeMeo has been the man on the move, and his co-driver is with Amanda.
I think you guys can see that fight that's going on right there, but if you look at Michael's ability already this morning, he's able to gain 4 position. He's put himself in that 2nd spot in the Pro-Am class, and Matt, you've been here watching along, and as you see your co-driver just go to work out here, how motivating is that for you?
It puts the extra pressure on for sure. He's been killing it. I think he's made up like 4 or 5 places at this point, so he's really killing it. Yeah, we're just loving watching it right now.
When you watched that restart, what impressed you the most?
Sorry?
When you watched on for that restart, what impressed you the most with Michael?
He just, I don't know, he's just making quick work of everybody. It's really cool to see. And it's his first time here, so it's impressive how quickly he's come up to speed.
Thank you, Matt. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
Matt actually has his co-driver from a GT3 championship last year, Mario Farmbach, who's working with the Academy drivers aboard the 93 Racers Edge Acura, but also working here with the Compass Racing team as well. He was sitting down, poring over data with both Matt and Michael DeMeo yesterday. So great to have someone of Mario's ability. He's such a nice guy, but just so smart and knows these Acura chassis so well to give them those drivers some advice here this weekend.
Big boost for them, and as you mentioned, part of that HPD GT3 Academy, which is very much a part of this Racer's Edge program. Taylor Hagler came through that last year, and she's making a look to the inside, trying to snag one more spot away, this time from Fred Pordad.
Yeah, and just learned a lot on the previous attempt. It just leaves her breaking that a little bit later. Want to ensure that she was comfortable, make that move, so felt it out, and just no rash maneuvers. She just thought, you know what, I'm going to wait, bide my time, waited another lap, and now she secures that position.
That's 4th and 5th in class, changing hands. Should note, just a moment ago, Jordan Pepper set the Crown Strike fastest lap of the race, a 1:46.321. Not sure there's really anyone in the ballpark, Calvin. Michael Dinan was about half a second off with that the last time, and everyone else is in the 1:47 bracket or higher. Goes to show Jordan Pepper, K-Pax Racing, in Jordan's words this morning after qualifying, we are back.
Yeah, they found their sweet spot, and you can see it in the look. He had a big smile, and he hasn't always had that look this year despite the success and the championship lead. So they feel they've got a really strong race car underneath them. And Corey Lewis there, he's hanging tough. He's just 3 seconds back of his teammate and championship leader. So he's not out of this picture yet, but it doesn't seem like that car is quite as sharp as the sister car this weekend.
Which has been that continuing theme throughout the year, and we had kind of heard from within the team that maybe it did have something to do with an accident that happened in the build-up to the racing at VIR. Heard Giovanni Venturini say, well, we don't necessarily point our finger directly at that, but whatever the case may be, something just doesn't seem to be clicking. And you talked about the test recently, Jordan Pepper sampling both cars back-to-back, and his feedback was, yes, there is something a little bit different, something a little bit amiss. For whatever the case may be, that it just doesn't seem like the 3 and the 6 have been on level footing for the bulk of the season, and I'm sure it's frustrating K-Pax as much as anyone.
Well, it's frustrating the team, it's frustrating Lamborghini. They brought an engineer over here this weekend to kind of assist with the whole assault through the end of the championship season. I think they're going to be here through Indianapolis for the 8 hour as well, but it really frustrates the drivers. It's one thing to struggle, but when your teammates are having success on a regular basis and have the championship lead, but I think it helps ease the pain a little bit when Jordan Pepper gets in and says, guys, there's something seriously wrong with this race car. So they're an expert group. There's got so much experience on their staff there. They'll figure it out, but sometimes it can be something inherent in the chassis, which all of the amount of tweaking on a race weekend is not going to fix the problem.
Exactly so. Taylor Hagler continues to impress, charging forward, made the pass on Fred Pordad for 4th a few moments ago, and now challenging for the final podium spot in Pro-Am. Jason Harward has it. Taylor Hagler wants it. Harward forced to go on the defensive here. That Acura is coming. Look at that. Beautiful crossover move from Taylor Hagler. Gets to the inside of the 88 car. It's now a drag race down the foot of the boot towards the heel. Slamming on those brakes. Hagler goes through, takes over P3.
Yeah, it seems like that car has really now found its sweet spot. Taylor's certainly got a lot more confident with it in the last 2 or 3 laps. So kind of feeling her way through. Is obviously not the ideal warm-up this morning with the damp and wet qualifying session. So she is now truly at home and strutting her stuff once again.
Now the next target is the class pole sitter, Aaron Vogel, who is something around 2 seconds up the road as it stands. Those two had a great battle going back to the first weekend of the season at Sonoma, and looking to reprise that here. 20 minutes gone by in this 90-minute race. It's Jordan Pepper leading Michael Dinan, then Corey Lewis, 1, 2, 3. Russell Ward is in 4th. The leader in Pro-Am runs 5th. That's Michael DeMeo, with Aaron Vogel right behind, and then Taylor Hagler giving chase, running 3rd in class.
Taylor's just taken off here, so a couple of really bold moves here, last couple of laps, and she's on the charge moving forward. So give Jake and Abel a great opportunity to score a podium run here this afternoon. Certainly Taylor's seen it on a regular basis, including the big win at Road America with Dakota Dickinson.
Race Vision powered by AWS, giving us a couple of peeks at different statistics over the course of the race in real time. We'll have more of that as the race proceeds. Seen more and more of that real-time data coming into the broadcast. Hope you folks at home have been enjoying it. It's a great asset to bring and give some good insight into what we see on the racetrack. That's the gap first to second. Pepper from Dynan. It's 2.3 seconds on the stopwatch. But visually, you can see what it is there, and it's about 2.3 seconds further back to Corey Lewis, who runs in third, and believe it or not, equidistant back to fourth. So the top four have found their groove and started to space out somewhat.
Yeah, Dynan's doing a really nice job. It's not like Pepper is just disappearing on him right now, so he's keeping him in sight, running very consistent lap times, about 4 to 5 tenths off what Pepper is doing at the front of the field, as he just laid down a new best lap of a 146.24 compared to Michael Dynan's 146.72. So Pepper certainly has the speed advantage right now, but it's all about just hanging tough for Michael Dynan. All of these drivers will try and use up these Pirelli P0s towards the end of the stint. You would anticipate maybe the Turner Motorsports team being on the shy end of that opening for the pit stop, which has to happen between 40 and 50 minutes in. Foley still has, despite Dynan really getting up to speed nicely, Foley still has a bit more speed than Michael, so they'll certainly want to strap Robbie in as soon as they can today.
Class leader in Pro-Am from Compass Racing, the Carl Thompson, Jill Beck-led squad, and here is the fight for second. It didn't take long, did it? Taylor Hagler has reeled in Aaron Vogel, and we'll see how long it takes her to put a move for the runner-up position within this class. This also is for 6th in the overall running order.
Well, Taylor's just caught on fire right now. Her lap time, she was a 1.5 seconds quicker than Erin on that previous lap. So she is absolutely flying right now. The car's setup is working well, and you can see she's feeling it.
That she is. Oh, a little twitch on exit, but still able to get the power down. Drag racing towards the heel of the boot, taking a peek to the inside. Vogel goes defensive. Hagler back to the outside now. Can she cross her over? Taylor Hagler back on the power here, but good defense here from Aaron Vogel. Has to go defensive again through turn number 9.
Well, these two ladies have fought very hard this year for podium runs, but right now Taylor has that momentum, but you can get stalled out a little bit, so you'd love to pounce and maintain that momentum and rhythm that you've been displaying here in the last few laps of this race. Sometimes it's easy to just get drawn into the rhythm of the car in front of you, so she needs to make it stick. She's got Ryan Eversley working here this weekend as well with the Academy drivers, so I'm sure he's on the horn, on the radio, trying to talk her through this situation.
Vogel able to hold Taylor off for the moment. Taylor Hagler now redoubling the attack. While we watch this battle, let's head to the pit lane one more time.
Well, you talk about Taylor Hagler feeling this drive. Her team is feeling this as well. There's been claps and fist pumps all around here. And Jacob, after qualifying today, I imagine you and Taylor must have sat down and talked strategy ahead of this race. What did you guys focus on in those conversations?
Yeah, you know, honestly, qualifying was a little bit disappointing for us with the changing track conditions there. Both of us, relatively speaking, we're really, really quick in practice with race pace-wise and things like that. But the difficult track conditions caught us out a little bit. So we both knew we had a lot more pace than was shown in qualifying. So we knew we'd be moving forward, and she's doing a great job doing that. So we'll see how it goes.
As you can hear, she just got the pass on Aaron Vogel. How does that inspire you today?
Yeah, I mean, it inspires me a lot. You know, she's been moving forward a lot. I think she's passed like 5 or 6 cars at least so far. So, you know, it makes my job a little bit easier. I just have to, you know, stay in the same spot once I get in the car. But yeah, you know, super proud of her, super proud of the whole team.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Jacob Abel, a promising up-and-coming open-wheel driver, branching out, getting some GT experience, along with Taylor, went through the HPD GT3 Academy last year, but he's one that I'm anxious to see. It seems like Racer's Edge has turned a corner. They were so good with this car last year, but it was a slow start to the season. It was Jacob and Taylor that scored the team's first, well, not first podium, but they did score a podium at VIR together. It's been a bit of a layoff from this program for Jacob ever since, focusing on some of the open wheel stuff, which he'll go back to. But tell you what, it doesn't seem to matter who's paired with Taylor the last couple of weekends. That car has been going to the front every single time.
Yeah, and I'm curious to watch the lap times now she's clear of that traffic to see if she can close in on our Pro-Am leader, which is Michael DeMeo. Her fastest lap at that point when she got up to second was half a second quicker than the Compass Racing Acura number 77. So Acura versus Acura, which team is going to come out on top with that brand here today? Should be fascinating to watch the rest of the way.
Michael Dinan, as you talked about earlier, Calvin, doing his best to keep Jordan Pepper honest. The lead has continued to grow, but it's not like it's going hand over fist. 3.5 seconds is the difference. And this race has the potential to turn a little bit when we get to the pit stop window. And the driver changes occur. Robbie Foley, so much experience with the BMW M6 GT3. He'll be taking this ride over during that pit stop. I'm really curious what he and this Turner team can do when that time comes.
Well, a lot of it can come down to the timing. Remember, it's not always the leader who has the first opportunity to pit, so the timing would have to be perfect with just a slim margin between the two. But say you're just shy of that pit lane opening, and Dinah's the first one to dive, doing the undercut, as we call it, get Robbie Foley in. Fresh tires, they're coming out of the tire heaters, so they should get up to speed really quickly. It's all about the tire degradation in terms of what would the in-lap be for Jordan Pepper compared to an out-lap, but you'd have to think that Capex will be on top of that and not want to see that occur. It used to be the other way around, but now in terms of going out on cold tires, you're always at a slight deficiency. But now with the tire warmers that were introduced a couple of seasons ago, suddenly that undercut seems to be the way to go.
Martin Fuentes now starting to apply the pressure to Fred Pourdad. Pourdad in the Wright Motorsports car we saw giving us the tour during the Porsche track preview. He'll give that car to Jan Halen. Fuentes just his second weekend racing the GT3 version of the Lamborghini Huracan. Takes a peek up the inside. Not able to draw alongside and has to fall back in line. He's got Lamborghini factory driver Giacomo Altoe to finish the race off for TR3. Both of these cars factored into the Pro-Am podium conversation at Elkhart Lake. And I think we both thought with Martin joining this team at that round that this TR3 car becomes a factor instantly within the Pro-Am Championship.
Yeah, it really does, because Altoe has already displayed why he's a Lamborghini factory pilot by his space that he's shown here on US soil. But every track is a new one for him. He's enjoying the experience. Saw a comment this week where he said, yeah, everything's new and trying to adjust to it. He's a fit young lad, very much into his dietary regime. And he said the problem with the USA is everyone likes their food, and even the salads. And not to my liking, maybe too much heavy on the dressing, but he's enjoying it. He says it with a smile and a chuckle. He's really enjoying being here racing in the US for the first time.
And he's busy. He's got a lot going on in Europe as well as this program here, racing in the Endurance Cup of GT World Challenge Europe for the Emil Frey racing team that's had some good runs this year. And again, watching his co-driver Martin Fuentes go on the attack. He does have some experience with the Huracan, albeit in Lamborghini Super Trofeo trim. What's the difference between a Trofeo car and what he's experiencing here with the GT3 machine?
Well, the GT3 car is just more of a beast, you know what I mean, in every way. It's more powerful, it's got a lot more downforce, so... but he's got a lot of GT3 experience, and he keeps sticking his nose in there. And with Fred Pourdad, as we've seen, he's not going to be an easy take. So there's no point just poking your nose down there. You've got to get right alongside before Fred is even going to think about giving it up to you. So Martin's in this sort of like late, sort of shallow angle of approach, but he's not quite close enough to make it stick and kind of make Fred give up that position. Up and over the curbs there, a little twitchy there.
That's
it's
all
quite
good
aggressive there, that little hump there, that crown in the curbing.
And that's all right as far as track limits are concerned. As long as you have two wheels on one of the painted curbs, you're all right. So Martin Fuentes just using all of the available real estate, trying to reel in last year's AM champion in GT World Challenge America. Fuentes himself has won championships in 4 out of the last 5 seasons of what is now known as Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWSE competition. And just right back at home with this TR3 team and in this series after so much experience. Now this is interesting because the fight for 3rd overall and in pro has closed in all of a sudden. Dinan has left Corey Lewis behind, and while he's done that, Russell Ward has been slowly chipping away and closing in.
He has, and you know, again, we talk about Dinan's performance here. He's keeping the leader, Jordan Pepper, honest, about a 4.5 second gap between first and second. Lewis is now 6.5 seconds back, and you can see Ward is right there with him. So he wants to keep the pressure on and see if they can maybe execute under this pit stop that's going to be happening, in about potentially 10 minutes or so. Excuse me, 20 minutes or so.
Dynan just ran a great lap within 6/100ths of a second of what Pepper did.
Yeah, he's really strong on this long run pace for the 96 car of Michael Dynan, so that's pretty impressive to watch.
Corner speeds at the bus stop, also known as the inner loop, potato, potato, tomato, tomato, whatever you want to call it. But that section of the track that was added to slow some of the high speeds we were seeing headed towards what's now known as the outer loop of this racetrack. Several big crashes there back a few decades ago. And for a time, at least, in a GT car, it turned into a great braking zone and passing zone. But these cars are so fast. They carry a ton of speed, as you just saw in the Race Vision powered by AWS. Hard to make a move there when you're carrying that much speed and you don't have to arrest that speed on entry.
Well, the braking zones are so short, they're able to roll and flow so much corner speed now that it does make it more tricky. But certainly towards the end of this run, and I'll correct myself, it's just under 10 minutes to go before that pit stop window opens, then that would be the factor where you may start to get a little bit of tire degradation, and those brake zones get a little bit longer, and there's more potential for a pass. Pepper continues to pepper the fastest lap of this race. Just brought it down to a 46.1. That's really impressive this deep into the session. So for Michael Dynan, he's got to be a little frustrated. He just ran his fastest lap, and the gap at the front is increased. So he's doing everything he can, but it's still quite not enough to threaten Pepper.
Oh, how about Pepper just going purple lap after purple lap, or within a tenth or two every single time, getting stronger and stronger as the run goes along. And as impressive as that is, maybe even more impressive is that a driver significantly less experienced here, Michael Dynan, has effectively been able to match him, not losing too much ground and turning in fast laps of his own.
Well, he's keeping him honest, and I think the K-Pax team was saying, okay, you're less than 10 minutes to go potentially, Jordan. Let's really hammer down and use those tires up if you need to. They need to be able to react. So if the Turner Motorsports team elects, or they just get it right on the clock in terms of being the first car with the opportunity to make that pit stop, they need enough of a buffer in case that undercut is quite powerful here.
Closing in on that pit window within the next 10 minutes, like you said, Calvin. Should mention also that something appears to have gone wrong for Reardon Racing. We talked about their issue in qualifying, and they had a power steering issue as well. Whether that was because of the spin or if maybe that caused the spin, that's not something I had mentioned before as a possibility, but it certainly is out there. We saw Jeff Burton start this race, but he's been in the pits for some time now, 7 laps behind the leaders, and we haven't heard yet exactly what the problem might be, but should give you the update that at least for now it does not look like that Reardon Racing car is in the fight any longer. Already we saw the number 10 TR3 car, Bill Sweedler, John McGrew out of the race. Their spin brought out the lone full course yellow of the race so far, and they will finish 15th here today.
Just got a quick text from George Kurtz, who's not competing here this weekend, saying, I'm loving this Pro-Am battle that's going on in the race so far today. So looking forward to seeing George back behind the wheel here in short order, but he's got busy time ahead for him.
He does. We miss having you here, but we understand. Unfortunately, not really in the points picture after the trying weekend at Road America, and with CrowdStrike about to enter the NASDAQ 100 index. He's got commitments ringing the opening bell for that particular exchange. Wish you the best of luck with all that, but can't wait to see you back behind the wheel of the race car. Should be at the Indianapolis 8 Hour. Should be a very similar, if not identical, lineup that we saw them have some success there with 1 year ago. And, really looking forward to that for sure as this battle starts to heat up again. 3rd place overall and in the pro class. It's Lewis leading Ward. Lamborghini versus Mercedes.
Yeah, Ward is pushing hard, got a little bit wide through the carousel, through the outer loop, and you saw Corey Lewis there then attack the next corner, and he's slipping and sliding a little bit as well. So both these drivers using up their probably P0s as they get towards the end of their stints.
Really impressed with Russell Ward. Got the season off to a great start, of course, with the 24 Hours of Daytona class win. But he's been busy racing all over the place, GT3 and GT4, whatever chance he gets. And that experience over the last few years, he's been about as busy as any driver globally in GT racing, and it's really helped him get on the pace. We talked to him at COTA about being effectively a pro in an all-pro lineup. That's how it's listed here. And he said, well, that's how I view myself. That's how I want to be viewed. And I'll tell you, he's backed that up. It seems like every time it's been up to try and back up over the course of this season. He's really stepped up his game this year.
Yeah, the whole team has really gone from strength to strength, and they're running a lot of cars globally. And that's the nice thing with this GT3 platform, is even used in DTM this year, which they're competing in. That's why Philip Ellis isn't here this weekend. So all of that information flow between the various groups, between the various championships that they're competing in, just adds to the strength and adds to your arsenal in terms of how strong you show up each weekend. And obviously from Russell's perspective, just gaining more and more GT3 experience, that's showcasing itself in terms of his on-track performance as well.
Taking a look at the 61, that's the AF Corsa Ferrari. JC Sada driving that, had a great qualifying effort, stuck that car 8th overall at the beginning of this race, and he'll turn it over to Conrad Grunwald, who might have been the revelation of the weekend 2 weeks back at Road America. And giving chase is Frank Gannett, who is looking more and more comfortable by the weekend. They did not test here, unlike many of their rivals. In fact, they do not plan to test ahead of any of the remaining races. They didn't at Road America and had their best weekend of the year, so they might have found a formula that works.
Didn't confuse themselves,
That's
maybe,
right.
but I say that tongue-in-cheek. I know it's been difficult transition to GT3 and with this Aston Martin chassis, but they're learning the ropes, and this will be a big learning year for them, and hopefully we'll see them back next year. And I think they'll just be so much stronger in terms of the confidence for Frank Gannett as he gets a big run here on JC. On the back straight here, looks to the inside and just out braves him there to the brake pedal and takes that position away. Nice job, Frank.
Really impressive stuff. Great to see this team getting stronger. They've had a lot of support from Aston Martin with an embedded engineer. Okay, let's see here. This is lap traffic for Jordan Pepper coming around David Askew. That is not what Ryan Dial wanted to see. It's not going to be easy to come back from that.
Well, that's a little bit strange because we talked about him, we saw him coming in and taking that tire and basically getting back to the tail end of the pack before we went back to green. So surprising to see him go down a lap within this stint as Caldarelli gets ready to take over the leading car, the number 3 Lamborghini Huracan.
We'll see if maybe with it comes a change in fortune. It's been a difficult outing in this race. I say that, they're still running 3rd. But that's not what they're here to do. They're here to win some races. We heard that from Giovanni at the start of this race in the pre-race interview. Starting on the front row, they expect to win. And it's only happened once so far this year. That can't have this half of the K-Pax garage feeling all that good about how this year has transpired.
No, when it's go time, they don't quite have that speed. They're just struggling with the car. The car is not giving their drivers the confidence that the number 3 squad has. So it's tough, but you just got to keep grinding away. There's a fierce battle coming into this round of the championship. You know, you got 4 drivers tied on the same points total, admittedly, some 46 back of the leaders, and then you've got Russell Ward only 6 points back of Corey Lewis, Venturini, Dinan, and Foley, who are tied coming in here. So it's a big battle, and right now, Dinan and Foley ahead of them on the road, so they have to keep grinding. You know, there's 4 rounds to go after this checkered flag here this afternoon. Championship is coming down to the wire.
Coming by to complete yet another lap. That is now 20 in the books.
Next time by, that pit lane should be open for the leaders, plus these chasers. Let's see who comes in early, dives in early.
Okay, this is Martin Fuentes, who evidently has made the pass on Fred Pourdad to get up to 5th, and he has caught Jason Harward. 4th place in Pro-Am. This is 8th overall. Harward will have Madison Snow to take that car the rest of the way. Had a podium at this track in a similar Lamborghini earlier this year. A couple of Utah-based drivers for this Utah-based team. It's awfully busy racing both in Fanatec GT World Challenge America powered by AWS, but also the GT America powered by AWS Championship for GT3 and GT4 cars. TR3 also busy this weekend. They've stepped up their commitment. They're running an additional chassis in GT America. Cesar Baccarella, that's a name that should be familiar to those that have followed the championship in the past. He's driving a Super Trofeo spec car in the Invitational class a bit later today, but Gregory Romanelli, the team principal, said, yeah, we're pretty busy this weekend with 3 cars on site.
So he was first to blink here. Pit window is open and Pepper hits it immediately, so they wanted to protect against that undercut from Dynan to Foley. So it doesn't matter what the Turner Motorsports team does. If this team can execute, minimum pit stop time for this race is 71 seconds as Dynan follows him in. As you can see in the background there, JC Sada is in. So as we said, it's not always the leader who gets the first opportunity to pit. Just by being a little bit further back, the 61 car is on pit lane as well as Lewis and Ward elect to stay out.
Yeah, so K-Pac splitting that strategy, and now I wonder what Windward will do. They think they've got the pace. They might want to try and get in and get some clean air for that car. But we'll keep an eye on that as it goes along. K-Pac's Racing, though, springing to work. This team, ever since this championship has gone to full-service pit stops, has consistently been one of the best performers in the pit lane, nailing that minimum pit stop delta. It's a rare thing you see them too far over, and even rarer still that they should run a foul and go too fast.
Well, both these teams, so much endurance racing experience. We talk about Turner Motorsports winning the 6 Hours of the Glen just a couple of months ago, so they've had success on this pit lane before this year. One assumes that was a good one. Everything was done, just waiting to release the car.
71.5 seconds. The minimum is 71, so half a second buffer. That's what they're looking for. How about the swap to Dynan, from Dynan to Foley?
71.6, so very close indeed. So pretty much same situation leaving pit lane as when they come in, admittedly now with new drivers, and Caldarelli was just dynamite. Even though they struggled a bit at Road America when Caldarelli had new tires, he says some very impressive lap time, so that's what he can do now as Jacob Abel gets his turn behind the wheel of the Racer's Edge machine.
It'll be his first laps in competition in any type of car at Watkins Glen. Jacob Abel, after a dynamic opening stint from Taylor Hagler, looks like the rest of the front runners won't wait much longer, just the one lap, and immediately Corey Lewis and Russell Ward dive into the pit lane. Here's Wright Motorsports, another veteran team with a lot of pit stop experience. You see them waiting. If you're new to this, it might look strange, but that's a good sign. That means they got the service done, and now they're holding to make sure they don't go too fast to run afoul of the pit lane minimum delta.
Yeah, I was a bit concerned there. I saw the number 6 paddleboard waving. I wasn't sure how close Corey Lewis was to duck it into his pit box. That can certainly lose you some precious tenths or seconds.
Look how good the right stop was. 71.1, 1/10 over the minimum. They executed that to perfection as the K-Pac's crew now servicing the second car.
Now this will be an interesting one because they pretty much came in nose to tail with Lewis and Russell Ward. Which team can execute the closest to that minimum stop delta?
Following the stop, it will be Giovanni Venturini versus Mikel Grenier. See the Windward car dropped off the jacks first. They, of course, got to the pit stall first due to the location. They released the 33. When do they... Oh, there's a hang-up.
There's a hang-up on the driver change. Lewis walks away very late, and still the car has not been released. So unless Windward is right under... No, they're right on the number. Perfect. 71.07, just 700s outside. So things going from bad to worse. They're struggling on the racetrack a little bit with the performance, and that was a really average pit stop for this group.
10 seconds over for K-Pax on the swap there from Corey Lewis to Giovanni Venturini. We'll see how much, if at all, that cost them in the overall order when things shuffle through.
Assuming we saw the delay for the door being closed, and I think Venturini was still probably buckling up because the car, all the service was done. They would have said go, 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 and he didn't go. I'm assuming he still had stuff to do in terms of getting strapped in.
Might be able to get an update on that. This, though, is the beneficiary. Put Windward up into the final Pro Class podium spot. Third in the overall running order as well. That is Ryan Dial now right behind in the silver and red car for DXDT Racing after David Askew got the start. But unfortunately, that car is a lap down after a trying start to this race.
Yeah, I'm not not sure the 63 has been in yet, so I think that's why we're seeing it so close, possibly. Askew was in pit lane for that issue with the car after his spin and the tire change, but I believe...
Yeah, I think they do still owe a stop.
Yes.
No, it does say 2 pit stops. So it just might be that they've fallen down. We saw them drop a lap.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, we will as it goes on, that's for sure. This is the car that lost all that ground. I wonder how much it turned out to be. Let's hear more on what happened from K-Pax Racing with Amanda.
Well, you may see drivers Jordan and Corey Lewis chatting with each other, collecting themselves after this run. I was able to catch up with Corey Lewis before he headed over. Said that Gio actually had sat on the belts when he got in the car and they became twisted. Had to like lift him up to get the belts around to get him secured safe back on the track.
Well, you nailed it there, Calvin. Problems with those belts. And that's not something you can mess around with. It's clearly a safety issue if you don't get them done up right. And credit to them for taking the time, as painful as it must have been, to make sure that Giovanni was belted in and secure. But boy, that cost them at least 1 spot. I think that's likely all they're going to lose because the Pro-Am runners were significantly further behind. However, let's keep an eye on this. Robbie Foley, you can see it on the screen. Well, a moment ago you could see it on the screen. He had purple right next to him. Jan Halen has just stolen away the race's fastest lap, but Foley had it, at least for a split second there. And we'll see how that compares to the lap times from Andrea Caldarelli. The gap is 7.5 seconds, but clearly there's some pace in that BMW.
There is. We saw great long run pace from Michael Dinan. He certainly kept the pressure on early. Pepper gradually eked away, but on that last lap at least, Robbie Foley was 6/10 quicker than our leader, admittedly just pipped by Jan Halen. And this is not a big surprise. Jan Halen led both practice sessions here yesterday, just got pipped to the pole for the race here tomorrow, and just shown tremendous pace all season long, in fact. 2 wins on the year, leading Pro-Am, and just really on top of his game right now, the Belgian.
Foley with some lap traffic to deal with, and it's Conrad Grunwald who very politely will move out of the way. That's an out-of-class battle, not on the same lap. So Foley goes through, and I don't think that cost him a whole lot as Grunwald gave way.
Caldarelli had responded with the new fast lap, 146.0, but it's only less than a 10th quicker than Foley. So Foley's got speed here. Can he close that gap?
And if we were to see a full course yellow, we know how strong this car is on restarts, and Foley is matching Caldarelli now, basically 10th for 10th on each of the first several laps since the pit stop. Now, full course caution could totally reshuffle the running order. This is the leader, Caldarelli, now turning some of the fast laps of the race. He's got the Crown Strike fastest lap at the moment, but only by a fraction of a second.
Foley looking really smooth. You can see he seems to use a lot less steering input than some of the other drivers here. Really nice run here by Robbie. And this is a team that is really learning this car well. Didn't start the season off well, even though they run this car, this platform, this M6 in another GT3 championship here in North America. You know, running it on this Pirelli tire has been a big learning curve for this team. They've got Jay O'Connell from Multimatic to assist with the setups. He's got a ton of experience with the M6. And they're really starting to find the sweet spot here and gaining confidence in the handling of that 96 machine.
Jan Halen attacking Giacomo Altoe, 2 seasoned pros. I say seasoned, Altoe is quite young, but despite his age, he does have an impressive CV coming through Lamborghini Super Trofeo and earning a spot on the Lamborghini factory driver roster. Jan Halen, he's been around for a while, raced up in Champ Car for a time, and has found a home in sports car racing, specifically with Wright, where he is the Swiss Army knife. Wherever they need him, they can plug him in, and he's got the tool for the job.
Yeah, he's just a great racer, always has great speed, and he's sharp too. I spoke to him yesterday about how's it going. He said, well, we really feel at certain circuits, at Road America, through the carousel there, and through this circuit as well, there's a type of corner, like a long duration corner, where we can have a great balance and everything feels fine, but we're just not rolling enough speed. And we came with a slightly different philosophy on the setup, and it seems to be working. So he said the real key corners here are this next one, turn 10. Can I roll speed through here and through the carousel after the inner loop? And he said we are finding that here this weekend. He said in qualifying, this corner is almost flat out, and then this beautiful rhythm between 10 and 11, just trying to be super brave here, making that switch over that transition across the road, getting the car dialed in, and then committing to the power early on in the front straightaway.
Love seeing that telemetry in real time. Gives you an idea of what the drivers are doing behind the wheel and on the pedals. Don Halen giving that Porsche a ride, and Altoe doing a nice job of keeping him at bay, at least for now. Up at the front, Caldarelli put in the first 145 we've seen from anybody so far in this race. He's extended the lead to 8.2 seconds. That's the Zalus car, Madison Snow driving. Drive-through penalty assigned to that car for a pit lane speed violation. They're serving that penalty now, and that cost them what was a promising run.
Yeah, you're going to lose the best part of 30 seconds coming through the pits here. So compared to the cars at racing speeds, see a little bit of debris, probably just a big chunk of marbling maybe flying across the road there. Again, Halen has caught Altoe, but putting him away is a different matter. And again, you lose that flow. You can suddenly get stalled out and you start running at the pace of the car in front of you. So sometimes it's so important to pounce, otherwise it can take you many laps to suddenly get that position away. And the other guys you're trying to chase down for a podium are well down the road.
This is for 4th and 5th, so the podium is a ways down the road. And why that matters is Wright Motorsports has an impressive streak of podiums to start the year. They've not finished off the podium yet this season. First, second, 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 third, and first. Those are the results in class so far. They have a massive lead in points, 67 in total. So one bad race really wouldn't derail their championship bid here. But that said, I'm sure Fred and Jan and the rest of this Wright Motorsports team would love, love, love to keep that streak alive. It's quite remarkable given how competitive Pro-Am has been this season. Just about every team has won at one point or another. They've only won the 2, but it's hard to find a bad day on their season CV.
Yeah, and I know we say it's a healthy lead, 67 points, 5 rounds to go, including this one, but the person who's in second behind them is Taylor Hagler. Their teammate currently leads right now, so they're looking at maximum point score potentially. But Matt McMurray is certainly keeping Abel very honest right now. There's only a gap of 1 second between the 2 leading Acuras in the Pro-Am class.
Behind them, it's 16 or so seconds back to Michael Cooper.
What happened here? Something's off. He's off the pace. He's been off the road.
Yep, and you see the grass built up on the grill of that car. So even if it's just a temporary loss of time with it off, it could have long-term ramifications from a cooling perspective.
Well, that grass, we talked about it being a wet racetrack this morning. The grass is probably still pretty damp, so it tends to stick a little bit more. Trying to look here, what sort of gap does he have back behind him? He's got a huge gap, 21 behind him. So if it does become an issue, rather than coming down pit lane, sometimes they can just do a quick stop on the racetrack. Here he comes in, just gets it a little bit wrong. That was weird. He was tight behind Altoe, but saw a little wiggle there right at entry, and obviously had to take to the grass there and has packed up the grill accordingly.
He was running very close to that Lamborghini, so you're a bit unsighted because you've got the car right in front of you at the windshield. Any chance you just miss your marks a little bit because you're so close to the car in front?
Yes, certainly, but you know, typically with someone of his experience, you just release the brakes, let it flow, and sort it out on the way through. But something was amiss there, so I'm not sure if we didn't quite catch it soon enough where it made a really late move and had been a lot more on the brakes than he typically would, and just got the car a little bit squirrely and loose on entry. But that was a strange one. I could see we were watching Altoe. It's like, where's the gap was suddenly there, and knew something was amiss with the speed that he then had through the second part of the inner loop.
By the way, you should note that Foley chopped off some more time and has the gap back down to 7.3. That's about as close as he's been able to get to Caldarelli. This, though, is the Pro-Am battle for the lead. It's Jacob Abel who has it, and right behind Matt McMurray, an internecine battle between a couple of teams that both run the Acura NSX GT3 Evo.
And this is really a testimony to the performance today of both Taylor Hagler to get the car up into this track position, and then Jacob Abel taking over and keeping Matt McMurray at bay. I mean, both young drivers, but Matt has so much more GT3 experience. Won a championship here in North America last year, running the same brand, running the same car effectively, admittedly on a different tire. So he has a ton more experience. So hats off to Jacob Abel and certainly keeping him at bay for now anyway. Long way to go.
Well, Jacob got started racing, if you will, in a go-kart on a dirt oval. He's from Louisville, Kentucky, and did some of that dirt karting early on. He and his entire family, though, have racing in their blood. His dad was a motocross rider before an injury, then started doing some vintage racing a little bit later in life. But the whole family together went to the Mid-Ohio school and went through comp school together several years ago. Mom, dad, kids, everybody. They all got it done together, and it's a real enthusiastic racing family. And Jacob's an up-and-comer. He was named HPD Factory Junior Driver ahead of this season, part of the HPD GT3 Academy last year, and has a promising open wheel career going for him too. But talking to him, he loves his GT3 racing as well.
Yeah, Billy Abel's a really good friend of Scott Harrington, former IndyCar driver himself, and he'd been working at the Mid-Ohio school, so he's a good family friend. Was doing some coaching with Jacob earlier on in his career, so you know, Billy was a motocross guy just like Scott was as well, so they know each other well, and it's been fun to Scott to watch young Jacob come up through the ranks. Oh, and he's wide there. That was close. Just missed it. Just rolled too much speed there at entry. Had to recover.
Matt McMurray needs no second invitation. He got close. Wasn't quite able to draw up alongside, but now Jacob Abel's got to dig in, refocus, try and get that rhythm back. Harder and harder to do, though, the closer that second place car gets.
Well, Compass would love to get their second win on the year, and they've got a lot of experience. Admittedly, still young, in his early 20s still, but for Matt McMurray, you know, he's got the experience to know he's got plenty of time on his side right now. Let's just figure this puzzle out. How do I get around this young man in front of me and make it stick in a safe way?
It is amazing. We talk about McMurray as an experienced veteran, and he is, but he's only 23 years old. It's just that he's been racing since he was 16 in big-time sports car racing and has all of that to draw upon. Jacob Abel's done quite a bit of racing this year. He's been very busy. He's 6th in Indy Pro 2000 points, but despite them being of a similar age, there is a big gulf in experience between them, especially on the big stage.
There is, and this is what's coming into play now. Jacob is learning the craft in terms of GT3 racing. Now having to learn with not just driving the race car, learning this car on this racetrack for the first time, but now dealing with the pressure in a race situation. So it's a steep learning curve, and we talk about the academy. You've got Mario Farnbacher, Ryan Eversley, HPD factory drivers here this weekend, giving these youngsters, Taylor Hagler and Jacob Abel, all of the tuition, all of the tools to try and bring it home. But it's still on their shoulders at the end of the day. You are the driver behind the wheel. As this battle is now heated back up again, Halen looks like the grill is fine. He's obviously not seeing extreme temperatures, and he's got the pressure back on Altoe for position.
Whatever the problem was for Wright, it must have been fleeting. Jan Halen has found the pace once again, and Giacomo Altoe might have hoped that would give him the respite he needed, but that was not to be. Let's hear about this number 20 car with Amanda.
We talk about the pace that Jan Halen has found. If we go back to practice, Jan back-to-back practice 1 and practice 2 were pulling lap times here of 1:44. That's the only I've seen of here this weekend. But I was able to catch up with Fred just quickly when he got out of the car and asked what they've been struggling with the Porsche here this weekend. And he said they've been chasing rear grip. So as those Pirellis get up to temperature, maybe that's what Jan was experiencing there. He didn't say anything else was wrong with the car, just looking for grip out of that Porsche.
He's found some of it now. He is dogging the Lamborghini up ahead of him, just working him over. But give Altoe credit, he has not given any sign of weakness, has he?
No, it's a tough crowd, and it's tough to come through the field. And the closer you get to the front, typically the sharper the drivers are. So despite Jan Halen's impressive pace here all this weekend, I think if you'd spoken to them last night, they wouldn't feel that with about 30 minutes to go in this race, they'd be running 9th overall and 5th in class.
Yeah, it is a bit of a surprise. Just behind them, Drew Stavely made a pass on Madison Snow. That was for 10th overall, 6th in Pro A. So move the Aston Martin up a spot. But here we go. Battle is on into the inner loop. Weaving left and right. Jan Halen trying to find a way past, but there is just no gap provided by Altoe.
Yeah. See some argy-bargy here in a moment, because Jan will deal with that for a couple of laps, and he's going to get his elbows out and try and make a move.
This is the leader with a bit of a moment here in the inner loop. Oh,
Wow.
don't want to give the race away yet. That's some heart in your throat stuff if you're watching on the pit box, let alone for Andrea Caldarelli behind the wheel.
Well, I think this whole race, I mean, I think that's the impressive thing. Yes, they've had the pole position. They've dominated the race in terms of track position. But the Turner boys, both Michael Diamond and Robbie Foley, have kept both Jordan Pepper and Caldarelli honest. They've made them keep pushing. And when you're pushing like this, you get a little bit deeper into the stint. You know, Caldarelli, it's showing signs that the car will give up, and there's still 30 minutes to go effectively. So it's not game over just yet.
Certainly not. And again, that specter of a potential safety car intervention is looming over this race. I think especially if you're K-Pax, that is the worst case scenario given the strength of the BMW on the restarts and the opening sequence at Watkins Glen in particular really would favor the BMW in that kind of a situation. No change, by the way, in the Pro-Am battle for the lead. It's still Abel from McMurray. 0.6 of a second, which is about where it was when we left it. We check back in here as Jan Heylen continues to stalk Giacomo Altoe. Thus far, though, without any reward.
Yeah, and he's a bit further back this go, so I'm not sure he's going to be in position. It's all about the timing of this run, getting at the correct moment. But I think he's just a little bit too far back, and there you can see Jan Helen's really taking it in deep on the brakes, but to try and get by him. Maybe this car is just really being hurt with the aerodynamics and running in the dirty air right now. It's upset the balance of that Porsche. Maybe if you get by the Lamborghini, you might have a bit more pace to take off with.
A couple of class podiums so far this year for Altoe. Had to miss the round at VIR due to conflicts at the Nürburgring. Oh, here comes Heylen looking to the inside. Not close enough, though. Altoe knows it.
Yeah, he seems pretty unflappable, and he's got such a good read in terms of if Jan Heylen is close enough where he has to change his line and get defensive, or whether he can just run his normal racing line. So he's really got enough experience now that he can look at the rear view mirror and identify where the strengths of that Porsche are and where he is vulnerable around this race circuit.
Oh, here comes Heylen, though. Just able to keep it a little bit tighter. We've seen that consistently there through turn 9, but it's not been enough to give him any kind of advantage. This turn is so fast in a GT3 car. Really high commitment, letting it float out wide. Caught a lot of curb, and I saw something fall out the back of that car. And those curbs are raised a little bit. You wonder what that might do to the under part of these cars and all the downforce that's created down there.
Yeah, and he had the off in the inner loop too, so maybe something was dislodged and just that extra moment up and over the curbs there, as he's using plenty of track there, so I'm sure he's going to get a warning from the stewards. Hasn't really used it to his advantage. Take another look here, coming through turn 10, up and over the curbs, and right there, something just comes out from underneath. It looks like a similar color to his, so sure if it's something from that right rear body section. Now he's got a big run on Altoe as they get down towards the inner loop one more time. Altoe's just taken that right-hand side of the road there, but this is a position on the racetrack where I've seen Jan Heylen even this year make some big moves there. He can kind of cut it tight coming out the inner loop, but Altoe's just rolling a bit too much speed there to do anything with.
In my eye, it looks like Altoe knows what the avenue through would be, and he's just cordoned it off. He knows exactly where he needs to position that car to keep it from being a nice, clean overtake for Jan Heylen. I think that the patience is starting to wear thin for Jan Heylen. He knows he's got the pace if he could only get by. That podium streak very much still on the line here with 26 minutes to go.
Yeah, and I think we're pretty close to the 70% mark in this race in terms of where the points will be awarded, so maybe they're waiting for that before they go a little bit aggressive. You don't want to make a move or go wrong and you're sitting on the side of the road and so, boy, not only did we lose some points, we lost all of our points here today. So these teams will really have an agenda in terms of when it is exactly go time as well, in terms of determining where that point in the race is, where they are guaranteed points today.
Love that shot. You can see the speed and commitment coming out of turn 11. Altoe forced to go very defensive here. We'll see how Heylen chooses to play it. Maybe he's trying to set him up for a run out of turn 1 this time and get that run through the S's into this section here where he's very strong. Matt McMurray now on the charge, trying to find a way by Jacob Abel. Closed up about as close as we've seen him in recent laps, Calvin. Couldn't get the pass made, though.
No. Just ran up on him, probably lost the front downforce a little bit, but had enough experience, just let it go straight for a little bit. and lost a couple of tenths, but he's back on him immediately. So there's battles everywhere around this racetrack. This is where Jan Halen, see, he can just cut it in tight, but certainly not getting the run to make anything stick there. AWSE is just displaying enough pace to make it really awkward. And as I say, you get out of rhythm, and then if you try and make a move, it's a big move, it's a big lunge, and then it gets a little bit risky.
Giacomo AWSE in 2018 was named the best Lamborghini young driver. That year really started his climb through the Lamborghini ranks. He was successful winning the Lamborghini World Final that year in Super Trofeo competition, won the Italian GT Championship, and that helped him get on the Lamborghini radar. Won a championship at GT Open the following year in 2019, and has been racing in GT World Challenge Europe and other championships over the last couple of seasons. Coming to the States for the first time.
Little touch.
And his first time having to deal with this man, Jan Halen, who is there. He's got the nose to the inside, but not far enough along.
He was just nibbling on his bodywork there, wasn't he? He's like my new puppy, just gives you a little chew.
I was thinking about that fish that's just nibbling at the bait, right? You know he's there. Is he gonna bite? In the case of fishing, you want him to bite. I'm not sure Giacomo does in this instance.
Oh, closer still between the two Acuras here for that Pro-Am class lead. Abel is just hanging on. Murray is just trying to figure out a solution here. He had plenty of time. He's just used about 10 minutes of that time, and now it starts to ramp up the intensity of trying to get that move done.
Well, we talked about it in qualifying. At McMurray was an aerospace engineering major at UC Irvine. And this is like studying for a test here. He's gathering all the data, trying to find the answers so he can apply them when test time comes, when it's time for that final exam. Jacob Abel, though, able to hold serve here so far. McMurray, as much data as he's acquired, just hasn't found the right computation. He doesn't have it figured out yet. How do you make the pass? And these two are exactly the same cars. So I guess on one hand, you know the strengths and weaknesses, but they're going to be the same, it seems like, for everybody, and depending on how the two teams set the cars up.
Yeah, and it looked like on a couple of occasions that Abel's sort of like overshooting the entry to the turn 7, the toe of the boot. But it's one of those corners with its uphill nature. You pick up grip as you're going through there. There's a lot of rolling speed that you can carry. So it's one corner where you can overcommit and probably get away with it. It's a corner that you can run multiple lines and probably come out with the same outcome in terms of the sector time. So even though he's vulnerable there, tough to make a move to the inside and be on that shallower exit and get the power down soon enough to make a move before you get to turn 8 in the brake zone.
It's worth noting, too, we talked about the gulf in experience between these two drivers, but in terms of GT experience, Abel is only in his 3rd GT3 race weekend, coming from single-seaters, able to keep McMurray at bay once again. You made that transition at one point in your career, Calvin, coming from open wheel to the sports car ranks. How impressed are you with what Jacob's been able to do with a limited amount of experience in these kinds of cars to draw upon?
Well, super impressed. I mean, it's not an easy transition. You've got a lot of weight moving around. The car tends to roll a lot more than a single-seater, obviously. I think in the current generation of GT cars like we're dealing with today, it might be a slightly easier transition. I'm saying that I was better. I'm just saying in the olden days, the GT cars were a big, big difference. And I think with the amount of downforce that these cars are creating now and the flatter platform, add to that the sim programs that you can run through and really kind of learn the car a little bit before you're even out on the racetrack, really helps that transition. But even so, it's a big one. And when you're dealing with a young kid behind him like Matt McMurray, who has a ton of experience in this car, he's doing a sensational job.
Jacob told me earlier in the weekend that, yeah, his Indy Pro 2000 car and this Acura, they make about the same amount of downforce, but they feel a lot different. And he said if you have a big moment in a GT car, it is a lot bigger than a big moment in an open wheel car with so much weight moving around.
It's a good little battle here. Certainly the DXDT team on the back foot a little bit. Hasn't been the smoothest race. We see Ryan Dial has now caught up with Madison Snow. Ooh, drop wheels there. That's an unusual spot. So he's just trying to figure out a way to set up Madison there and drop that right side and kind of kick the rear end around on Ryan Dial. So he's digging deep here, trying to find a way through.
20 minutes to go in this 90-minute race. Up front, no change. Still Caldarelli from Foley by 7.7 seconds, then 13.7 seconds back to Mikael Grenier from Windward. He runs third, then the final K-Pax entry in the 4th spot. Jacob Abel, Matt McMurray, we saw them a few moments ago. They're racing for the 5th and 6th positions overall, but 1st and 2nd in Pro-Am. This, as Calvin mentioned, is further down the order, but no less feisty with Madison Snow 7th in Pro-Am, Ryan Dial in 8th. And they are going to war here around Watkins Glen International.
Yeah, and both of these drivers, or these cars, should I say, have had an extra trip down pit lane today, so that's why they're so deep in the pack. But certainly two of the fastest drivers in our field. As Dial uses all of the road and a little bit more there. Coming on that front straightaway, he wants this position badly, as this one is not going anywhere. Halen keeping the pressure on. Altoe, this is for 4th in Pro-Am right now.
Jan Halen's he's a fighter. There's not many that can keep him at bay for this long, and I'm really curious to see how this one resolves itself. As Jacques Altoe has been able to do that exact task for pretty much the entirety of his stint, keeping the Belgian, now living in Florida, Jan Halen, behind him in the fight for 4th.
Yeah, he's an avid cyclist. He has a bike shop down in the St. Pete area as well, which keeps him busy in his downtime, but he's on the road so much. He's certainly very busy, and looks like
Venturini's off the base.
Yeah, slowing here and drawn back into the clutches of both of these Acuras. So could this help McMurray, or does it help Abel? Oh, and he's struggling. He's got big issues down on power down the straightaway.
In the end, I don't think it affected either of these two. Credit there to Venturini for making that as straightforward as possible, but boy, the frustration continues to mount for the 6 car. Just not been a strong run over the last several race weekends for them, chasing gremlins in that car, and right now dropping outside of the top 5 overall. That does not affect how they score points. It is a true pro class, not an overall category like we've seen in the past, where if you're falling behind out-of-class cars, that hurts your points haul. They're still in a position to score 4th place points, which mitigates some of the damage, but still not a good situation.
No, 4th in pro still, and the drivers that they came into this race tied with, Dynan and Foley, having a big day. Dynan keeping Caldarelli honest.
He is.
We had Halen set the fastest lap of the race, and Caldarelli has lowered that mark, but Foley is a little bit quicker than Halen now in terms of his fastest lap. So that gap has been hovering between 7 and 8 seconds the majority of this stint. And but it seems like Caldarelli is kind of keeping that delta the same. So time is running out for Foley here to make anything happen.
Well, I think what we saw in the first stint was Jordan Pepper able to build that lead between 7 and 8 seconds. And that's what it was when the pit stop happened. And they've come out, and Caldarelli has just maintained it from Foley. But Foley has kept him honest. They traded fastest laps there for a time, and there's really been nothing to separate those two. And it goes to show the gains that Turner has made throughout the course of this season, that they are right there on pace with one of the fastest GT drivers on the planet, Andrea Caldarelli, right at home in his natural environment behind the wheel of a Lamborghini. Yeah,
like you said, they've been trading fast laps, Foley and Caldarelli trading punches, so to speak. So Caldarelli certainly kept it up. He's we saw him get really twitchy there in terms of how hard he was pushing, but right now Abel is really looking really smooth right now, and I think just that, I mean, admittedly, it's only a car length, but it just takes the pressure off. You can see there he rolls through on a slightly better line there with the pressure off, not looking in his rear view camera or the side view mirrors here in terms of where his competitor is, and just a super job. And that's going to give him, the more laps he stays in front, the more confidence is going to give him.
Under 16 minutes remaining. Remember, we've got another race coming up tomorrow, race 2 of the weekend for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. And it's a totally mixed up grid because
get ready.
we had the second drivers qualify for that race. But to your point, Calvin, this one is by no means settled yet. Altoy forced to give a little bit of ground there on the outside. That might be the long-awaited chance for Jan Heylen.
Look at that. Look at him. He's just trying to get on the power that little bit early. But, you know, Altoy will not give him the lane. He will not give him enough room to try and get to the power earlier and get that track position. Just great racecraft by the Italian right now in holding on to this position.
Just 20 years old. Giacomo Altoy turns 21 on the 5th of October, but driving like a seasoned veteran. How difficult is it to do what he's doing and withstand this kind of pressure for effectively 30 minutes?
It's incredibly difficult because that Porsche is really a flying machine around this racetrack. So I wouldn't doubt if Jan Heylen could get in clean air, that he could maybe take off a bit, as we see McMurray clobbering the curbs there a little bit and losing a car length or two. So again, this has given Jacob Abel a lot of confidence, and that's going to make Matt McMurray's task even harder here as we get towards the checkered flag this afternoon.
Ryan Dial, by the way, did make the pass on Madison Snow that last lap, so that's 7th and 8th changing hands in Pro-Am. That is 11th and 12th overall. Again, as you mentioned earlier, Calvin, both of those cars with unscheduled trips down the pit lane. There was the spin early in the day as well for David Askew driving the car. Ryan Dial is now piloting. Not been an easy day for them, but that's the nice thing about these weekends with 2 races. You can put it behind you quickly. You're not stuck thinking about it, stewing over it. If something doesn't go well on Saturday, you get to turn right around and try and turn the page quickly on Sunday.
Yeah, it's like teeing it up the next morning after a bad round. So these guys have not had a great round here at all. They're going to lose that tie for second position in points here, unless something dramatic happens here in the last 13 minutes or so. But there was something amiss with that race car. That number 6 car definitely had an issue where Venturini was well off the pace.
And it's persisted. The last lap was nearly 4 seconds off of Caldarelli's pace, and I think Amanda has more.
Well, to their credit, guys, if there are struggles with that 6th Lamborghini that's persisted race in, race out, they're at least being tight-lipped on it. As you know, we've talked to Darren Law about it. We've talked to Corey Lewis about it. We asked Gio in the interview prior to the race today. I was able to get out of Darren just now that Gio is relaying back that he's having handling issues. There were questions over whether to bring the car out in or not. They're going to leave it out essentially just for points at this point.
Well, that's an interesting decision because you said the pro points are based on the pro cars. He's running 4th. He can't drop any further in 4th. If I was that team, I'd be using this last 13 minutes as like a little mini test session for tomorrow. See if there's anything they can throw at this and just do a couple of in and out laps and see if they can get any read on what exactly is going on.
That does make some sense. I guess the other side of the coin would be if problems were to befall any of the other 3 cars in the class, good and point. You do that, you drop a lap, and maybe that costs you the chance to pick up a spot at somebody else's misfortune. Boy, that's a tough choice to make. I'm glad I'm not the one making it. Looking here at Michael Cooper, who's had a nice, quiet day. This is the class pole-sitting car that Aaron Vogel started and turned in a nice opening stint. They have since dropped back to 3rd in Pro-Am, and Michael is right now running down that ailing Lamborghini from K-Pax. You can see right there. That would be for 6th overall. Michael and Aaron, though, right now set to finish on the podium once again if things finish as they run right now.
Yeah, and looking at the fastest laps of both the DXDT machines, Cooper is 300ths quicker than his teammate Ryan Dial in the race, and I think that was a similar margin to what they had in qualifying here this morning for race 2. So very evenly matched between the 2 team cars there.
And this would be the 2nd podium on the year for the pairing of Cooper and Vogel. They had the 1 win at VIR, but other than that, the best finish is a 4th at Sonoma back in the 2nd race of the opening weekend of the season. 5th in points coming into this race. And I know they're here to win races, but getting up on the podium is a special thing any chance you get to do it, and especially here at a racetrack that is so richly steeped in history like Watkins Glen.
See there, Cooper has gotten around Venturini, and Heylen's still trying to figure out this little problem he's got in front of him because Altoy has just been there every step of the way. Hasn't made that critical error, and that's the hardest part. I mean, it's one thing to have that racecraft, but even so, when you're looking in your rearview mirror and looking in that rearview camera to see where the other driver is. So easy to just miss your braking point a little bit, miss your turn-in point, and open up the door for Jan Heylen to pounce. And he hasn't made that mistake yet.
Big lunge there, late on the brakes from Jan Heylen. Closes up to the rear diffuser. Can he get to power quick enough to challenge into the toe of the boot? The answer appears to be no, not this time. Seems like Jan is really digging deep into the bag of tricks.
Turn 9, this next corner is one where Heylen seems to be really quick, but he's not quite as close as he was on previous attempts, so nowhere to go with it. You see, he just dives it in there, and I think he could get on the power much earlier than he's able to, but there's a bit of a roadblock in front of him.
Keep in mind, they've got the car of Venturini that is a bit off the pace just up the road. Might that have some impact? Could that provide the opportunity that otherwise might not materialize for Jan Heylen? Inside the final 10 minutes at Watkins Glen, the fight continues in the battle for 4th in Pro-Am.
Yeah, it just depends whether Venturini recognizes they're close enough to make the move earlier, whether he just bails out of it up this back stretch here to give them that track position to go racing again. But yeah, could this be the little block that Jan Heylen is looking for in terms of the chink in the armor for Altoe hanging on this position?
Giacomo Altoe has turned that Lamborghini into an unbreakable car. Has not given Jan Heylen a chance to get by. He's gotten close, even put the bumper to him ever so slightly on a few occasions. Altoe has been unflappable. Still, though, 9 minutes left, and what a long 9 minutes this must be for Giacomo Altoe.
That moment of hope for Jan Heylen went by in a millisecond, didn't it? I'm sure he saw that green Lamborghini Huracan thinking, oh, this could be the opportunity, and Venturini basically just let them both blow by on the straightaway with no drama.
Once again, you saw that late lunge out of Heylen closing in, but can't take advantage of it. Altoe has every answer to the questions Jan Heylen has posed to him.
This is intense. I mean, we've seen it get close, but this is like both drivers on maximum attack right now in terms of the defense of Altoe and just Jan Heylen. So much experience and just can't quite figure it out yet. That Porsche just not have the advantages, at least in dirty air, to make the move stick. The question is, does he display the patience and the discipline not to do a bump and run here with 8 minutes to go?
Is this fun as a racing driver? Frustrating? Somewhere in between?
It's fun. I mean, everyone loves a great battle, but as you mentioned, they haven't been off the podium all year in terms of the 20 Wright Motorsports Porsche. So, and they had pace yesterday, so I'm sure they went to dinner last night talking about strategy from the front, not being buried in the pack here and then struggling with the car in traffic. So, yeah, it's fun. I mean, Jan loves a great fight, but I think they'll be frustrated by the potential pace and potential position of today.
About half a lap ahead of these two, Andrea Caldarelli just past the start-finish line, has now a nearly 9-second lead over Robbie Foley. It has grown over the last few laps. Here we go again between these two. Jacob Abel, Matt McMurray, and again, Abel fends him off.
Oh,
problems for Zelus. That car is off the pace.
Oh,
there might be a local yellow here. I'm not sure that didn't rob McMurray of a chance.
Yeah, either he reacted to that car being there and suddenly caught it out of his peripheral vision, because as you come up there out of turn 7, you crest that hill, that Lamborghini on the slow side there, and I think right there, I think it was almost a reaction after he'd passed him with that slower car being there.
Well, there was a local yellow displayed, and until you reach another corner station that is not flying the yellow, you cannot pass. So he might have been reminding himself, we're not there yet. I might have cleared the problem car, but I'm not to that corner station.
Sometimes the team is giving you that information if they see it on the monitor before you arrive there. Just be careful, slow car on the race circuit. The key is, where is that car now? Is it going to get into a safe haven and not create a full course yellow? But not much time on the board to work with for that.
Yeah, I think we'd be hard-pressed to get a restart should it go full course yellow at this stage. Wouldn't necessarily rule it out entirely, but I do think for Matt, it looked like he had a run. That looked like a chance. And there is the car stranded on the side of the road. Heartbreak for Zelus after a great qualifying effort and good first stint from Jason Harward. They had the drive-through penalty for a pit lane speed infraction. Madison Snow has to stop the race car. And I hope it's not serious because they've got to use that car later today in the GT America race.
Big slide by McMurray. He threw it in there. Car just skating across the road.
He's wringing the neck of that Acura, trying to chase down the Racer's Edge car. First and second in Pro-Am. This is 4th and 5th overall. Venturini has dropped all the way down to 9th in the overall order and looks poised to lose yet another spot, at least on this upcoming lap. That car just not on the pace really for the last 10 minutes or so with reported handling issues.
Yeah, with that car on the side of the road, you know that Mac McMurray is just thinking, boy, how much time do I have to work with? The team is telling him 5 minutes to go, but do I have 5 minutes? Are we going to go yellow here if the stewards determine that that car is in an unsafe position? So if he has anything, he has to show it right now.
Coming back onto the pit straight once again in the slipstream, Matt McMurray, Compass Racing, black and orange car, taking a peek to the inside of the identical NSX in the white and red Racer's Edge Motorsports paint scheme.
Both drivers, I'd say, abusing the track limits a little bit, but no advantage to either one.
That is one thing the steward said at the driver's meeting. We'll take a look at it. If we judge you gained an advantage, then you'll hear from us.
Big run there by Matt McMurray, heading down towards the inner loop, flicks it to the outside. He's not got enough to clear him. Jacob Abel hanging on right near for that win.
That move around the outside, can you get it done unless you're pretty much all the way alongside it, corner entry?
Tough in equal cars. We saw it with Dynan and a couple of other moves that have been made around the outside where you have a bit more of a straightaway advantage, but these cars are pretty evenly matched. And once again, McMurray really dives in there and just loses the front end a little bit and has to give it up, and that costs him half a car length or so every time through there.
Jacob Abel looking for his first career win in a GT3 car. 6th place in the Indy Pro 2000 point standings on the road to Indy. Looking to make the step up to Indy Lights next year, if at all possible, but he has been looking very strong as he's got more and more comfortable with this car and this race team. The relationship with the team goes back to last year as well, because Racer's Edge, they run that HPD GT3 Academy. John Meraki really championing that in the cause of some of these young drivers that have come through that academy. They've already started their 2nd year of it this year, with a number of drivers eyeing potential futures in GT racing, and it's a great initiative. Honda trying to support some of the up-and-comers within the North American sports car racing market, and I think they've identified a couple really good ones. Dakota Dickerson was a real star at Elkhart Lake. Taylor Hagler had a great opening stint here, and now Jacob Abel finishing it off as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for these young drivers to learn the ropes at the GT3 level, and I think for John Meraki is a great opportunity to introduce new young drivers to his squad and showcase what they can do as McMurray keeps the heat on. But it's just the perfect solution. I mean, hats off to the whole group with HPD and Racer's Edge for coming up with this concept. And the proof is in the pudding. They're winning races, they're running at the front, and bringing these young drivers up through the ranks very quickly, and leveraging all of the experience that they have with the HPD contracted drivers as well. Guys like Dane Cameron, Ricky Taylor, Ryan Eversley, and Mario Farnbacher, the latter two being here on site this weekend.
It's been a great duel pretty much the entirety of the stint here, and Jacob Abel, much as we've seen from Giacomo Altoe and his defense of Jan Halen, has been able to parry every thrust. Matt McMurray deep on the brakes, closing in once again at the heel of the boot, lets it run out wide over the curb, just barely keeps those Pirellis on the painted line. That's what he needs to do to not run afoul of track limits. Stays tucked in line, little twitch there on corner exit, cost him a bit of ground. Now tucks back in line, trying to stay within striking distance of the class lead with just over 1 minute to go.
Yeah, Jacob just doing a really nice job, and he's not compromising his line too much now. I mean, you can sense that he's gained that little bit of confidence that Mac maybe does not have enough in his arsenal here to make that move. So that's allowing Jacob to roll his normal line and normal speed through some of these corners. And you know, he realized he's getting really close now. As we see Caldarelli's going to do this lap, should see white flag this time through.
That's right, and look, you can see just how off the pace the sister car is, because here comes Caldarelli around to put a lap on the number 6 car. These are team cars, but not fighting for position. It has been a trying weekend to this point, despite qualifying on the outside of the front row for the green number 6 Lamborghini. White flag flies, however, for Andrea Caldarelli. He's less than 2.5 miles away from yet another race win.
Yeah, and just super impressed with what this team has done. Both drivers, you know, impeccable really in terms of their performance, and also the performance of the Pro P0s. I mean, Caldarelli's last lap, 146.3. That's only 0.6 off his fastest lap of the day, which is the best lap of the race so far. So to be this deep in a stint and still performing at that level, admittedly on a slightly lower fuel load as well as you burn it off, but even so, great performance. And here we come down. Well, it's the final lap for Caldarelli, but these guys have a lap and a half to go, I believe.
Yes, they do. Jan Halen, as close as he has been, does he have the answer to this riddle? Giacomo Altoe playing the part of the Sphinx, and Jan Halen trying to solve the puzzle, unable to do so far. Coming through the booth for the penultimate time. These two will see the white flag the next time by.
Yeah, it's taking a lot of patience from Jan Halen, but does he see an opportunity here in the last 3.5 miles or so?
We'll see just how aggressive he wants to be in the fight for fourth. Back to the overall leader, Andrea Caldarelli, Lamborghini factory driver, team manager of the Orange One FFF racing team that he races for over in Europe. We'll be seeing that team come into the States for the Indianapolis 8-hour. Who he drives for in that race is still a bit up in the air. Will it be K-Pax? Will it be Orange One? Well, we've got some time to figure that out. For now, coming around to complete their final lap for the 6th time this year, Jordan Pepper and Andrea Caldarelli are race winners in GT World Challenge America.
Team is pumped up, just increases that championship lead, and it's not insurmountable, but they're in really great shape with 4 rounds to go.
Here we go, Pro-Am lead up for grabs. Even still, Foley has crossed the line to take the checkered flag, 2nd overall and in Pro. Jacob Abel still trying to fend off the challenge from Matt McMurray, stalking him in the Compass racing car. Compass versus Racer's Edge with half a lap to go.
Got that gap. It should be enough. He's been really consistent here down into the brake zone. Got the ABS to work with you as the tire deck starts to kick in a little bit and you don't have the amount of grip to work with. Just use that ABS into these big brake zones. Now just bring it home.
Jacob's co-driver Taylor Hagler scored the first win of the season for the team alongside Dakota Dickerson in the last race at Road America. Jacob told me that was motivation. I want to do the same. Coming through turn 11 for the final time, the first time in his career as a GT3 driver, Jacob Abel and Taylor Hagler, they win for Racer's Edge, holding off Matt McMurray by less than 0.4 of a second. Here comes Jan Halen around Giacomo Altoe into turn 11 for the final time. Can he cross him over? Drag race to the checkered flag. Giacomo Altoe holds off Jan Halen in the fight for 4th.
Wow, it looked like Jan Halen actually got the position and looked Altoe had to come back at him and get it in the final couple of corners.
Woo, that was a little tight there.
Well, I wonder if there's a little bit of frustration from Jan Halen. Now, we didn't see those last few corners, how that evolved.
No, we did not, and I am curious to hear what happened there.
Yeah, Jan Halen's taken off like he is miffed about something.
34 thousandths of a second, the difference at the line. Fred Pordad with a little roll of the eyes. He might have seen something we did not, or heard something we did not, but as it stands, a dramatic finish there for 4th in Pro-Am. Andrea Caldarelli, Crown Strike fastest lap of the race, 145.781. The only one of 2 drivers to dip into the 145s in the race today. Mikael Grenier, who finished 3rd for Windward, did so late in the running with a 145.9.
Well, a run for Grenier. We didn't see him a lot, but another nice podium run for the Windward Racing team. And that will put Russell Ward very close to Caldarelli and Lewis for 3rd in the points. Dinan and Foley should assume 2nd based on this runner-up finish.
There are the provisional results with Jordan Pepper and Andrea Caldarelli taking their 6th win of the season by 9.389 seconds over Turner Motorsports' Robbie Foley and Michael Dinan, who do move to second provisionally in points with the second place finish, given the issues for the other K-Pax Racing car. Minutes windward over Racer's Edge, holding on for their 2nd race win of the season, but the first for Jacob Abel. Taylor Hagler, her 2nd win of the season. That's big for her. She's in the middle of the points fight, came in 2nd. Should definitely help her cause.
Yeah, she's having a big year, busy year, as a number of these drivers have dual programs. So she leads the TCR Championship as well this year late in the going. So great stuff.
Let's see what happened here. I think we're about to see what went on with Jan Halen and Giacomo Altoe.
This is turn 9, and I think Jan Halen gets the run finally, times it nicely, gets to his inside, side by side, heading towards turn 10. Track limits, I guess, is the real question. I mean, he effectively exceeded the curbing there a little bit to make that pass and get it back. So we'll have to wait and see how the stewards feel.
I have no doubt they'll take a good close look at it. And this is what happened after the race. And the more I look at it, I think that more was a case of Jan not expecting the car up the inside. At least that's how I'm choosing to read it. And nevertheless, big thanks to both of them for putting on such a great show for us. We didn't have the pass. I guess we kind of did there, and then it swapped back. But it was a tremendous fight for basically 45, 50 minutes.
It was awesome. Great battles throughout the field. Some for the victory, some for deeper in the points, but everyone was digging deep.
Incident between 9 and 20 under review from race control. If in the course of our post-race coverage we get word as to what happened, we'll be sure to pass that along to you, but that is the latest that we have seen. Curious what the stewards have to say about all of that, as it looks like Amanda is ready to go to talk once again to Andrea Caldarelli and Jordan Pepper, who win overall.
In this case, your 6th win on the season. What goes through your mind when you see that checkered flag?
Yeah, it was good. It was a kind of a solo stint. I tried to stay focused and try to push because we knew that BMW was quick. Jordan did an amazing job to pull that gap at the beginning. So, yeah, I really wanted to bring it back first for the guys because it was a very hard weekend for us in Road America. So when I saw the checkered flag finish first, it's definitely a bit of a relief after the last weekend.
Jordan, you said at the beginning of the day that we're back. What exactly did you mean by that?
Look, it's like Andrea put it, we didn't quite have the dream Road America weekend, and we all pushing to maximize every potential, and we put our heads together, we as a group collectively worked hard, and yeah, really impressed by the boys. They're the ones who are, when we go away after a weekend, they're the ones who are grinding back at the workshop, finding the problems, and we never really found a problem, but this track just obviously suits the Lamborghini really well, and just proud to drive such an amazing car for such an amazing team and share the car with Andrea and get our 6th win. So awesome. Thank you.
Quite a season they're putting together. They're trying to clinch this championship nice and early before the Indy 8 hour. Then the way that the 8 hour works, with points being paid at the 3 hour mark, if you don't have to worry about points, you can do more with your strategy early in that race. Plus, there's Andrea trying to figure out who he's going to drive for, and I think that decision becomes maybe a little bit easier if he were to clinch ahead of that race. But that might be a topic of discussion for another day. A lot of credit to Jacob Abel. First of all, Taylor Hagler, maybe we should start there. She had the brilliant opening stint. She was as aggressive as they come, but Abel had to finish it off. And looks like Amanda's standing by, so let's go ahead and hear from our Pro-Am winners.
Well, Jacob, I know you got to see that win from the perspective of your car, but I got to see it from the perspective of your team. Your dad was watching that last lap on the phone, tracking you around. He was pacing. Your team was at the wall to celebrate you as you passed by your first win in GT3. What will be the best part of it?
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. I don't even know where to start. I mean, it's been such a long journey with all of the Racer's Edge and Honda HPD folks. You know, the first time I ever drove a car with a roof on it, or actually the first time I drove a race car in general was a Honda. So, you know, I've been with them forever, and you know, it's been awesome to build that chemistry with the Racer's Edge crew. You know, John has established such a good group of guys, and you know, I'm kind of speechless. I can't be more happy. You know, Taylor did an absolutely phenomenal job there at the beginning. You know, our qualifying wasn't the best like we talked about earlier, but, you know, she got us up there, and then the Racer's Edge guys got us in the lead, and all I had to do then was hang on. It was probably the longest race of my life, but, you know, it was super fun.
Taylor, I believe it was a right front tire that took you guys out in race 2 in Road America, and you were on a journey there to the top. Bouncing back from that in the adversity, where did your fight come from today?
Honestly, kind of, we had a really bad qual. It wasn't the qualifying that I wanted, just with the mixed conditions. And when I'm usually that far back, I'm like a dog with a bone. As long as I have something to chase, I'm going to be up there. And, you know, if I could have had a few more laps, a little bit more time, I think I would have been right up there with DeMeo. I was catching about half a second a lap, I think. Usually I just get a little fire under my foot, and as long as I have something to chase, we're good to go.
It was on show today. Congratulations.
Great stuff from both of them. They both held up their end of the bargain, and it shows just what a team sport, especially this kind of racing where you have the driver changes, you got the pit stop, you need to be perfect in all phases, and they were.
They really were, and Taylor just, I mean, it took her a couple of laps to get into her rhythm, get into the groove. The car setup seemed to come to her. Then she was just carving her way through that field, and that really set up a great pit stop by the team, as they alluded to, both drivers. And then Jacob, just tremendous pressure from Matt McMurray, as we said throughout the race. A ton more experience in GT3 machinery, and particularly this race car, this Acura NSX, he knows like the back of his hand, but he couldn't figure out a way through. And I think as the race wore on, Jacob got more and more confident in terms of holding on to that position.
It's going to be interesting to see if any of this carries over to tomorrow, what the teams can do, going to work, trying to adjust on the cars a little bit, tweaking on the setups. Will we have some different protagonists? Certainly the start of the race is going to look different based on qualifying alone.
It will, and if you look at Robbie Foley's pace compared to Caldarelli there, I mean, Caldarelli really didn't make any grounds. I mean, he just kept the gap constant. So with Foley starting the race tomorrow, what can he do? If he can get a good start, if he can get the track position, maybe they can make something happen. And Michael Dinan's got a ton of confidence. We talk about all these young drivers learning their craft, learning the ropes. It's coming to the forefront here in the latter rounds of this championship season.
Definitely so, and then you mix in some of the veterans as well. What a show Jan Halen put on for us. Drew Stavely had a nice run as well to finish 5th for Ian Lacey Racing in Pro-Am. But in the AM class, it was all about AF Corsa, Amanda.
And as you can see behind us, we're just moments away for the podiums for this AM winner to celebrate. And JC, commendable effort today, qualified really well. What's been the funnest part of this journey here in Watkins Glen for you?
Oh, I had the most fun. The first 15 minutes of the race was just amazing. I just felt the car, felt the track, everything came together. I was calm. Conrad here kept talking in my ear and giving me some guidance, but at the end it was just magic. It was very, very cool. I really enjoyed myself today.
And for you, Conrad, how will you reflect on this race performance?
I could not be more proud of him. His qualifying was astounding. I mean, I haven't seen him drive like that for years. So really, really good job on qualifying. It left us in a great point strategy-wise with our competition way back, and they ended up having a mistake. So we asked JC just to take it easy, bring the car back in one piece, and it's a pretty easy race. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
And another win for AF Corsa. They have been so strong in the AM class, and this might be their best weekend yet, as highlighted by that qualifying performance. But this is a look at the race highlights. Great jump from pole for Jordan Pepper. Look at this. Michael Dinan got shuffled all the way back to 4th, but it's not going to take him long. He'll be back to 2nd.
Yeah, big power move there with the BMW M6, and just slots and threads the needle there between Corey Lewis and Russell Ward there on the opening lap, and that really set up their day. They had a really strong run here, going from strength to strength on the back of that win at Road America.
Good battles here. This was Taylor Hagler as she started her charge. You heard her make reference to the fact that qualifying didn't go according to plan. I, for one, am grateful because she was absolutely must-watch television, marching her way up through the field. ended up giving it over to Jacob Abel, who was embroiled in a great duel all race long with Matt McMurray. That was a moment late in the race for Andrea Caldarelli, but he stayed up front, and then a fight that lasted the better part of an hour between Giacomo Altoe and Jan Halen.
Yeah, it kept going right down to the wire. There we see a little problem for the Zalus car, unfortunately, and a little twitch there by Matt McMurray. I'm sure if he saw the car at the last moment or saw the yellow flag.
There's the checkered flag flying for the 6th time this season for the pairing of Andrea Caldarelli and Jordan Pepper. Last lap fireworks for 4th and 5th in Pro-Am. Giacomo Altoe by fractions of a second, able to hold off Jan Halen. Race 2 of the weekend from Watkins Glen coming up tomorrow.